Okay, we're up to Tzadik. Today's daf is Tzadik Zayin. We're still on Tzadik Vav Amid Beis. The Gemara had said that the Shulchan is Makabel Tuma. The Gemara asked, it's a pshute kli eitz she'ena asel nachas. It's a pshute kli eitz that's not moved. So if it's not moved, it should not be Makabel Tuma. Said Reish Lakish, they would take it out. They would take it out to show the people, and that the parnasa comes from Hashem. They show it hot. So therefore, l'chayre, it's not asle nachas. So therefore, it's makabel tuma. Fred the Gemara now. Good, it's a wooden kli, but isn't it covered with gold? Isn't gold metal? Isn't metal makabel tuma? And as we're going to see, a kli goes after its overlay. So good, it's wood, but if it's overlaid with gold, it should have a din of a kli mateches, a kli of metal. That's makabel tuma. So the Gemara is asking on that side. So we're up to Tzadik Vav Amid Beis. We are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lines up. 8 lines up from the bottom of Tzadik Vav Amid Beis. Says the Gemara, v'tepikle mishum tzipui. The Shulchan, it's not tamei because it's brought out. It's tamei because it's a metal kli, because it's covered with gold. Milay tanan hashulchan v'adulpiki. Dulpiki is like a leather type of chair. Shenifkasu, that it became broken. Oishechifon b'shayish, or they're covered with shayish is marble, some type of rock, and it's not makabel tuma. V'shaya behem makam anachas kaisais, and you leave a place on these on this table or this chair for koisais, for what, for a cup, tameyan. They still retain their name as a kli that's not a kli avonim. Shayish is kli avonim, not makabel tuma. Rabbi Yehuda omer makam anachas chatichais. You have to leave a little more than the koisais. Shire in, that's because you left over. Loy shire log. But if you didn't leave over anything, it wouldn't be makabel tuma. Why? Because we'll consider it what? We'll consider it a stone kli, and a stone kli is not makabel tuma. So hu hadin, the kli eitz of the shulchan that's covered with gold, should be considered the halacha of gold, which is the overlay, and it should be makabel tuma. V'chi tema kan b'tzipui oimid. Kan b'tzipui she'eno oimid. It depends how it adhere to the surface. Is it nailed in or not? So if it's sipui oimid, then I would say then it is makabel tuma. If it's not. V'haboy mine Reish Lakish Reb Yochanan b'tzipui oimid oy b'tzipui she'eno oimid b'shechifa es levazvazin. If it's covering the lip, oy shaloi chifa es levazvazin. What's the halacha? V'amalei, and Reb Yochanan told Reish Lakish, loishna tzipu oimid loishna tzipu she'eno oimid. It's going to get the din, but it's considered covered. Loishna chivoi es levizvazin v'loishna leichivan et levizvazin. So Memela, all we did is we supported the kasha. That l'chayr should have a din of metal and it should be makabel tuma. So why do you have to come up to this kli eitz that was brought out? Even if it wasn't brought out, it's a metal kli. It's not a wooden kli. V'chitema, you'll say atse shitim chashivi v'loy batli. You'll say, well, good, it's covered, but atse shitim is such chashiv wood. Maybe it's not bottled to the metal, and therefore it's still considered a kli eitz, and therefore you had to come on to Reish Lakish that you took it out. Let me pronounce this the right way. Loishanu bekli achsiligus haboy medina sayam, right? That achsiligus wood that's not, it's very cheap wood. Aval clay mismas chashivi, a clay mismas is chashiv lay batli, and it's not bottle. So in other words, so Reish Lakish says that if it's chashiv wood, it's not bottle, and therefore what? It's not a metal kli. And memela shapir. So therefore, you're right. You had to come on to kli eitz that it's moved out because it's not considered a metal kli. Why not? Because atse shitim is choshev. Ella l'Rebbe Yochanan the amar kli mismus nami botli. A kli mismus is also bottle, meaning even if it's choshev wood, we go after the covering. So who adin the choshev wood of the mishkan of the shulchan should be not should be bottled to the metal. So why did you need the comma of kliates that it's taken out? Even without it taken out, it's a metal kli. Maya kalamema. What are you going to say? And for the Gemara, a teretz, shiny shulchan, the Rachmona karya eitz. The Torah calls the shulchan eitz. Shenemar, hamizbeach eitz sholish amos gavaya, archoi, shtayim amat, this is a pasuk in Yecheskel, shtayim amos umiktsoisav loi, v'archoi v'kiratzav eitz, v'yidaber elai zeh shulchan asher lefnei Hashem. Now, fellas, you look at the Lashon, it says, hamizbeach eitz. The mizbeach is eitz. And then it says a shulchan. We start off calling them mizbeach, and then we call it a shulchan. The bottom line, it's called eitz. So we have a teretz, guys, right? You have a teretz. Even if it's covered with gold, it's still called a kliates. If it's called a kliates, then it's not makabel tuma. If it's not moved, once it's moved, then it's makabel tuma. So therefore, we came to a final teretz. However, the Gemara just tells us now on this pasuk that began with mizbeach and ended off with what? With shulchan. Pasach mizbeach v'sayim b'shulchan. The pasuk starts with mizbeach and it ends with shulchan, right? Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Loza Dami Travayu bizman shebeis hamigdash kayim mizbeach mechaper lodam. When the was round, we got a kapara from mizbeach. V'yachshav she'ein beis hamigdash kayim. Now that we don't have a beis hamigdash, shulchan shalodam mechaper olav. It's the shulchan of a person that's mechaper for him. By being mekayim, Rashi says the mitzvah chanas is orchim. The Shita says, well, you're feeding poor people. This is a result, right? It's going to go ahead and the Tosfos brings gedolah legima, which is the great food for the derech. That was how we got into the other day about David and about David. Guys, remember the sequence that David ended up in no because Yehonasan failed to give him food. So then that's the whole. It's a nice yisod over here. We said that there were 4 snifim of zahav, and there were 28 konim, and they were half hollowed. So Menani Mili, where do you know there were? Where do you see there were konim? Menani Mili, Amarav Katina, Amakra, Vasisa. You should go ahead and make ke'aroisav, v'chapoisav, u'kesoisav, u'menakiyoisav. This is what it says about the shulchan. Again, karoisav, kapoisav, kesoisav, u'menakiyoisav. Ka'aroisav, elu defusim. These are the molds, guys. Remember, you took the lechem aponim. You had to put it in a mold because of its unique shape. So when it says ka'aroisav, it doesn't mean a plate. It means the molds that we put the kli that the lechem aponim in. Kapoisav, elu bezichin. These are the spoons that we use for the levina that matted the lechem aponim. Kisaisav, elu snifim, and that's what we need. And menakiyosav, elu konim. Then the pasuk says, "Asher yusach behen," which should be covered. What do you mean should be covered? Shemesachim behem. They covered these reeds, these like reeds or rods. Es halechem. They covered the lechem, right? They were on top of the lechem. Ma'asav Rava, we said leisider hakonav le'nitilasan doichen Shabbos. The Mishnah said, erev Shabbos. What did they do? They would take out erev Shabbos. They would take out the konim and let the breads rest on each other. They would take out the konim and let the breads rest on each other. That's what they did. So the Gemara is the great kasha. If you're telling me that midoraisa there's something called konim, v'yisal k'daitach deraisa amayin derechas is a Shabbos. Why is it not derechas Shabbos? That's what Rava asks. Rava says, why if it's deraisa? And then Chodam Rava says, now lav milsi diami. What I said is not is garnished garnished. Did nan klal om Rabbi Akiva. Kol malacha she'ef shalasais lo lasais erev Shabbos, eina doiches a Shabbos. V'hani mili efsha delay doche Shabbos alayu. Okay, and v'hani nami efsha delay doche Shabbos alayu. This is possible not to be doiches Shabbos by removing them. Again, now what is the problem over here? If it's the Rabbanan in nature, guys, says Rashi. Let's go up a little bit. Amayla doche Shabbos ta'afal gav dein shvus b'migdash. Even though there's no dirabanan dik in the mission, no shvus b'migdash, high tilt the lab mishum shvusu. This is not shvus, it's not muktzah. El the michsi kibayna v'saiser. In other words, the shvus here would be muktzah. So muktzah, it won't be muktzah to touch them because ain't shvus b'migdash. But l'chayra, it's michsi kibayna v'saiser. It's like it looks like what like you're building, and by taking them out, you're being slicer, putting them back in, you're being boina. So it seems that that's not considered a shvus, since what? It's the Rabbanan. Tosfos says that we find shvus that is also. The Gemara quotes the Gemara in Erevin about a door that came out the pivot at the top, that sometimes they would go even shvus b'migdash. But again, now back in the Gemara, time of Mai, the leil offish lechem. What's the reason you put the rods in there? That the it shouldn't get spoiled. The lechem shouldn't get spoiled. B'chi shiura, the amount of time from erev Shabbos when you remove it till the next day when you're going to take it off the table, lav mi'afish. It's not going to go ahead and get spoiled. Kidatanya, ketzad nichnas me'erev Shabbos. They would go in erev Shabbos v'shamtam, and they would go ahead and slip them out. They would put it on the floor, keneged the shulchan. They would put it on the floor, keneged the shulchan. Look at Tosfos, guys. La'orchan shel shulchan, ala ritzpa. They put it on the floor. La'orch shulchan, to the length of the shulchan. The ala shulchan lehoyo makom, because on the shulchan there was no makom panoi, there was no empty space. Limdoid akonim la'orchan, to go ahead and put them on. There was no space to go ahead and not limdoid is to measure la'niach. The same Kachim says la'niach. The pasha wasn't in any room, so you put it on the floor. Keneged what the shulchan. U'moitzi Shabbos, back in the Gemara, nichnis magbia reisha shel chala. They would pick up the head of the chala. U'machnis kana tachteha. V'choyz magbia reisha shel chala. They would go and pick up the other end. U'machnis kana tachteha. Okay. Now, how did they use up, guys? We said there were 28 rods. 14 for each seder. How did we divide it up? There was 6 of them. There was 6, and you had 14 rods, right? So how did it work out? So now the Gemara is going to tell us. Arba chalois tzrichos shloisha konim. So 4 out of the 6 needed 3. So that takes care of what? Of 12. Yes. So we have 2 more left over. Hel yoina ein tzricha el shnayim. The upper one only needed shnayim. Lefisha ein aleha masui. Guys, why did it only need 2? Because there wasn't anything above weighing it down. The middle 4, fellas, the middle 4 had the weight of each one on top of the other. So, but the top one had no one on top of it. So you only need 2, not 3. Okay, good? So the top one, so that's your 14. And a tachtoina, the bottom one, ain't it tzricha, didn't I need anything, because it was resting on the what? On the shulchan itself. Since it was on the shulchan itself, it did not need a rod. So therefore, that's how it was the 14. 4 in the middle, 3 is 12, and 2 for the top. Tan Hasam. Okay. Reb Meir Oimer, Kol Amos Shahoya b'Migdash Beinanis. All the Amos in the Migdash were middle measurements. Chutz mi Mizbeach Hazav, with the exception of Mizbeach Hazav. Now, middle measurements, guys, is 6. Benji's got his chart out. You have it also, Nassim? No. Anyway, so the Mizbeach, the Mizbeach is what is, it was all the Migdash was 6. You had six amas. So Beinanis means a 6 amma, with the exception of Mizbeach Hazav, v'ha keren, v'ha soivei, v'ha yisoid. So guys, very important. Look at me. We're going to go in now, we're going to do a mathematical omid. And we'll deal with numbers. Not difficult at all, because we have it all plotted out in front of you, and we're going to go through it before we see the Gemara, actually. There's a 6 and there's a 5. There's a 6 and there's a 5. Okay, Reb Meir, he said everything is 6. And that's what he measured the shulchan, if you remember. 6 times, he was the one that was 12. It was 6. 6 times 2 was 12. And it was 6 across, 12 by 6. Yeah? Rabbi Yehuda said, no, you have 5. Okay? So now, there are givens over here. Reb Meir says everything was 6 with 4 exceptions. The Mizbeach Hazav, and here's the 3, guys, important. 1 Yisoid, 2 Soivev, 3 Keren. Yisoid, Sovev, Keren, those are 5. And we're going to see a pasuk. Rabbi Yehuda Ama binyan shisha tfachim. The amas of the building was 6 tfachim. V'shel kelim, all the kelim chamisha. Rabbi Yochanan, Ushnei Mikra Echad Darshu. And they both darshan their shita from the same pasuk. So again, Rabbi Yehuda argues across the board. He says everything, all the kalim were five. All the kalim were five. So the six was used for what? For the binyan, the measurements of the actual structure. Okay, so now they're both based on Rabbi Yochanan, the same pasuk. Here's the pasuk in Yecheskel. The Elo midos hamizbeach, but amos. These are the measurements of the mizbeach. But amos, amma v'toichech, an amma, and each amma was an amma and a tefach. So guys, if an am is 5 and one tefach is 6, in other words, if you tell me in one amma there are 5 tefachim and you add one tefach, that means 6. Again, our discussion over here is it 5 tefachim, or is an amma consist of 5 tefachim or 6 tefachim? So based upon this pasuk in Cheskel, it would seem to be the mizbeach was made up of 6 tefachim, because it says an amma, which is 5, and a tefach, which is an extra tefach. Now, the pasuk continues, Amid Beis, V'chei ka'ama, we'll see what that is, kama, V'ama roichev kama, Ugavula el svasa saviv zerach ha'echad, okay, zegava mizbeach. So now, let's go back over it. Chei ka'ama, when it said chei ka'ama, that's the yisoid. That's the yisoid. Ama roichav zesoivev. That's where the middle, a little bit, where the little ramp that they walked around, the Kohanim walked on it. Ugavula el svasa saviv zeras ha'echad elakranos. And this is referring to the half, zeras is a half amma all around of the kronos. V'zeh gava mizbeach is mizbeach hazav. So these 5 things, fellas, these 4 things, right? Look, mizbeach hazav, yisoid, soivev, and keren are all 5. All the other ones are what? Are an amma, the teifach, and the tefach, 6. These are 5. These are 5. Okay? So now, Reb Meir says, Zehu amma bas chamesh. These, the mizbeach hazav was 5. Hakol amis kelim ba'ama shel sheish. Any other ones was marriage by an amma is a 6 tefachim. In other words, Rabbi says this 5 tefachim was unique to the mizbeach hazav, but every other kli in the Beis Hamikdash was 6 tefachim. Rabbi Yehuda says kizeh yiyu kol amis kelim. Just like this is 5, so too all the kelim are 5. But notice, fellas, Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda do not disagree about the other 3 places. About the chik, about the sovev, about the yisoid, the sovev, and the keren, they all agree it's 5. Good? So again, Mizbeach, we have machloikis. What's the kelim in the Beis Hamikdash? Says Rabbi Meir 6, says Rabbi Yehuda 5. Where do they get it from? They get it from what? From the Mizbeach Hazav. With the Mizbeach Hazav, a pasuk in Cheskel says it's a 5 tefach square. It's a 5 tefach square. Says Reb Meir, uniquely to Mizbeach Hazav is 5 tefachim. Any other kli is 6. Says Reb Yehuda, no, this is the paradigm for all other kalim. All other kalim are similar to what? To the Mizbeach Hazav, it's going to be 5. Good? Now, what we're going to do right now, guys, is we're going to try to fit in how should I say this? The Kahanim, they did the Oilas Ha'oif. The Oilas Ha'oif had to be above the Chut HaSikra. Good? The Oilas Ha'oif had to be above the Chut HaSikra. Good? It had to be above the Chut HaSikra. Now, that means he's standing on top, and when he puts the dam of the bird, it's got to be above the red line. We're going to try to figure out, there's a Mishnah that says that the Kohen, when he was on top doing it, he can bend down and do Malik of the Rosh and squeeze the dam on the Mizbeach. And if he did it below his feet, even 1 amma, it will be kosher. Meaning, the Kohen standing on top, bending down from his legs to would be an amma, would be above the Chut HaSikra. Okay? Got that? That's the given. Again, he's standing like this. He's standing over here on top. His feet are over here. He's bending down. If this is the chut sikra, actually it's a green chut, right? If it said he's going to be even an amma, it's going to be in conjunction with that. It can't be below the chut sikra, guys. It can't be below the chut sikra because again, then it's out of bounds. It's got to be above the chut sikra. Okay, so now let's look at the possibilities. Here you have, everyone can see this? Guys, you see it?
Yeah.
Okay, so now, according to Rabbi Meir, it's 12. This is the Shulchan, 12 by 6. According to Rabbi Yehuda, it's 10 by 5. Okay, so now, according to Rabbi Meir, this is going to be according to everybody, fellas. Why? Because they all agree over here. Well, actually, they agree over here that this is going to be a 5, this is going to be a 5, and this is going to be a 5, right? So watch. The totality of the Mizbeach, it's 10 amas, guys. It's 10 amas tall. Now, if you go ahead and you have a 6 amma over here, it's 30. And if you have a 6 amma over here, this is 3 and 1. 6 times 4 is 24. So up to there, you're going to have 30 and 24 is going to give you 54 complete. So if 6 amas are 5, you're going to have 6 amas of 5, and 4 amas are 6. That's 10 amas. That's going to be a total of 54. 4 over here times 24, and 5 times 6 is 30. Again, you're basing this upon what? 6 amas of 5. You're going to have 6 amas of 5 and 4 amas of 6. Good. Half of the Mizbeach, therefore, will be 27. Half of 54 is 27. Now, from the Keren to here is going to be 4, right? It's going to be 4, right? So that's 24. 24 is from here to here is 24. The Chut Sikra is below here. And you told me that when the kohen is over, the kohen's here, he can bend down even to an amma, and still be above the chut sikra. But if he bends down an amma of 5 tfachim, it's going to be a 29, right? 29 is the chut sikra is at 27. We're going to be 29 from the top, guys. You're going to be 2 ammas out of 2 tfachim out of bounds. You're going to be 2 tfachim below the chut sikra. He's over here, the kohen. He's only up to go to 27. That's the maximum he can go. The chut sikra was half the mizbeach. It's going to be 27. If he's able to bend down, and you told me an amma, and an amma is 5 tfachim, then he's going to be from here to here 29. That's 2 tfachim more than what? Than he should be. He's going to be 2 tfachim below the chut sikra. Guys, how was that? Was good? How did that work out? It worked out okay? I'm sure you have your chart. Good, I'm telling you. Okay, let's see the words inside. Again, let's see the words inside. Okay. So we're on, okay, now. Remeya Savar says Remeya, Zehu, we did that already. Kosal Kedaitach, the Hafemin is, Kosal Kedaitach. Miyasoid v'ad soivev be'ama, bas hey. Here's the Havamina, guys. Look, this is important. The Havamina is that from the Yisoid to the Soivev, we're going to measure based upon an Amma of 5. Okay? We're going to base it upon an Amma of 5. Right? Va'ad Soivev ba'ama bas hey. Begoiva. Umay chika Amma va'ama roichev. Right? Umay chika Amma. Right? Va'ama roichev hachi kamar. What is it? Mechika Amma va'ad roichev va'ama bas chamisha. Guys, from the chika Amma, please look at the chart. From the chika Amma, the Yisoid, ad Yisoivev is going to be 5. In other words, I'm taking into account the whole height. The whole height from here to here is going to be 5. So guys, 5 and 1 is 6. 6 times 5 is 30. Fellas, please get this. Get again. It gets so again, one more time. The Havamin of the Gemara is, and it's not going to stand, is from the Yisoid until Soivev, we're measuring based upon a 5. How much over here are we taking into account? We're taking into account a height of 6. 1 for the Yisoid and 5 for the Yisoivev, yes? So now, if it's 5, 6 times 5 is 30. Continues the Gemara. HaMizbeach kama have, how tall is Mizbeach? Eser amos. Sheish b'nei chamisha, 6 of the 10 will be from 5. Chamisha, chamisha, v'arba b'nei shisa, and 4 of them is going to be a 6. You see it? Guys, look at this right in front of you. These 5 is going to be a 5. The first 6 will be a 5. The next 4 is going to be a 6. Mizbeach kama have, chamishim arba. Now you have a total of 30 plus 24 is 54. Palgul the Mizbeach kama have. How much is half the Mizbeach? Havi esrim b'shiva, right? 27. Mikronos vatsovev kama hame eser v'arba. They're in front of you. Beautiful, right? Kama botzil palgul Mizbeach. So how much do you have left over from 24 to 27? Tilsa, you have 3 tfachim. V'tanan chut shel sikra choygroi be'emsa. That's so the chut sikra is by the 27 mark. Kedei lahavdil bein dom el yoinim v'dom tachtoinim. In order to discern between the upper blood and the lower blood. Elahod Tanya, Gabe Oila Sa'if, Haya Oila Bekevesh, Upanala Saivev, Ubalo Lekaren Droimus Mizrachis, he would come to the southeast. Umolik Eswaishai Mimul Arpa, he would go ahead and do Malika from the back, Umavdil, Umotzias Damral Kerem Mizbeach, Vimasa Limata Me Raglav, Afilu Ama Achas, and if he did it below his foot, even one Ama Kshera. 1 second. He's going to be putting it again. 24. Guys, look at over here. 24 plus 5. Over here, look at the chart. 24 plus 5 is 29. But he's got to be at the 27 mark. He's 2 tfachim out of bounds. So this doesn't work. Right? This doesn't work. In other words, that cheshbon did not work. Any questions? Beautiful. Okay, so now. Let's see the second thing. Okay, let's see now. We'll see the second possibility. Case number 2. You all can see this, right? Case number 2, yes? Okay. So all amis height, they were all 6. 5 is the step of the aside and the seifif. Guys, look. In this scenario, this area, the 6 was a 5 tefachim. In this scenario, the 5 is only going in the depth of the step. Each one is a 6. Guys, there's only 6. The whole thing is 6. When it says 5, you know what it means? The depth of the step is 5 tefachim. So it went 5 tefachim in here, and it went 5 tefachim in over here. But the height is 6. Got it? The 5 is going on the depth, but the height is 6. So now, look at case number 2. All amis height, 5 is the step of the aside. 6 now, so it's 10 times 6 is 60 tefachim, right? 10 tefachim, 10 amis high, 10 times 6 is 60 tefachim. Half the mizbeach is 30. So whether 24 or 5 or 24 or 6, you're at the 29-30 mark, the dam would be above the cheres sikra. If you're at the 30 mark and he's standing at 24, guys. So 24 and 5 is 29. He's one above. The halfway point is 30. He's either at 29 or exactly at 30. If it's a 5, he's at 29. If it's a 6, he's at 30. Let's see it inside. Elachika ama, kanisa ama. When it says the chika ama, it means the ama, that word is going in. It doesn't mean that height from the soivev, from the yisoid to the soivev. It means the depth of the yisoid itself. Roichiv knisa gevula svasa saviv is knisa. Mizbeach, so that's we're talking about the Kanisa. Mizbeach kama have shisa. It's 60 tfachim. 10 times 6. Palgan Mizbeach kame, how much is half? Tilsin. Mikronas at soiviv kama have chav dalid. Kama batze le palgan Mizbeach sheish. Right? Go from 24 to 30. V'tanan im asel lemata miraglo vafilu ama achas kshera gishmak. There you go. Works out. Good? Okay, everything's good. Now, here's the problem. We just dealt with the height. What about the width? In other words, if you're telling me this goes in only, this is a 5 and not a 6, then we got another problem. And that problem is this. Guys, look at the chart. The Mizbeach, fellas, was 32 by 32. Good? Now, there were indentations. First you indented the Yisoid. Then you indented the Soivev. Then you indented the Makam the Kranais. You went up. So you go from 32 to 30 to 28 to 26 to 24. Good? So let's do the chart. Let's do it by the chart. If the Yisoid is 5 Tfachim from each side, so it's 30 Amis plus 2 Tfachim. Again, you tell me it's not a 6. It's a 5, right? The Yisoid is a 5. So if you go from each side, if you square it off, you're going to have, we only have to deal with 2 sides, but meaning it's a square. So 32 would mean I take in an Amma from here and an Amma from here. Yes? Yes? 32 would mean I'm taking in one Amma. This is the Yisoid. So if it's a 5, it's 30 Amis plus 2 Tfachim. The rest of the Mizbeach are 6 Tfachim for an Amma. Okay? Now, once you get to the Soivev, you're losing 4 Tfachim. Because the Soivev also is a 5, right? And once you get to the Kranais, it's 26 plus 6 Tfachim, which will give you 27 Amis, not 26. Because you gained 2, 2, and 2 on each side. That's a total of 1 Amma. Good? That's going to be our problem. You saw that again. Each time you're losing an Amma, but if the Amma is only a 5, it's 5 Tfachim. So therefore, 5 Tfachim would be 32. Would really be 30 plus 1. And each time you go in, it's really 2 each side. So you got it at the 26 mark. You would have gained 2 for the Soivev, 2 for the Yisoid, 2 for the Soivev, 2 for the Karen. So let's see the problem. Let's see it inside. Okay. Umi matzas mukmisla b'knisa. How could you zayin that the 5 tfachim is going on the step? But Tanan mizbeach hayesh shloishim ushtayim ashloish shtayim was 32 by 32. Ola amma v'konis amma. It went up an amma of the Yisoid and then it went in an amma. Zeo Yisoid nimsa shloishim al shloishim. Now it's shloishim al shloishim. It's shloishim ushnei tfachim have. It's really not shloishim. It's 30 plus 2. Right? It's 30 plus 2. It's only because he was only 5. Visu, Allah chamesh v'konas amma zesoivev nimsa esem u'shmayna al esem shmayna. That's not true. Esem u'shmayna v'arba tfachim have. It's 28 plus now 4 tfachim. The 2 you gain by the Yisoid and 2 you gain by the Soivev. V'chi tema kiven le have amma. You're going to tell me since it's not an amma, like choshev le. So in other words, okay. The measurement, so it's a little bit, but it's not a full amma. Makam kronis amma mizeh ba'amma mizeh nimsa esem v'sheish al esem v'sheish, says the Gemara, esem v'sheva have. Guys, you gain 1 full amma. Again, so there's 3 things, guys. There's the keren, the soiviv, and the kranais, right? And the yisoid. So you gain 2 by each one on each side. So Memela, now you have a full amma. You shouldn't say 26, you should say 27. And for the Gemara, like duck. Okay. Well, like duck. After all of this, figure it out. Like duck, okay? Like duck. Now, Malkam Hilach, Raglei Kahanim, Amma Mizeh, V'Amma Mizeh, Nimsa Esem V'Arba al Esem V'Arba, Malkam Amamracha Esem V'Chameshu. It's not 24, it's 25. You can't say leidak, right? I'll tell you why. Because it says over here that it was exactly 12, it was 12 squared. No, it was 24, 24, 24, 24 in all directions. So for Ariel, Shtayim Esrei Oirich, Shtayim Esrei Oirichiv, Revua, Yachol Shein El Shtayim Esrei El Shtayim Esrei. Maybe it's only 12 by 12, right? Kishuoima al arba reva'ov, it's 4 squares. Malamed shebe emsahu moedeid, shnai mesuyam alachol ruach v'ruach. So it's, you have a problem. It's 24, but it should be 25. Because again, you gained as you went up. V'chi tema sheish minayu meikara, ba'ama, bas chamisha, maisilahu. Okay, so let's go. Here's a possible solution. Of the 32 amis of the Mizbeach, I would say the following. 6 of those amis were 5 tefachim. That makes sense, guys, right? How do you get 6 of those? 6 of them? You get, right? You went up. So 6 was of 5 amis. The rest were of 6. So guys, look. If you have 32, look at the cheshbon. 26 and 6 is 32. If 6 of them were 5s, it's a 30 tefachim. If 26 times 6, the rest is a 6, it's 156. 30 and 156 is 186, which is a total of now. So therefore, if it's 186 or 31 amis of 6 tefachim, you have 31 amis that are 6 tefachim, yes? And you'd end up with 26 by 26 after you go ahead and take off the squares off of the 5. You're going to take off the sides, you're going to take off that 5. So in other words, I have a solution. You want to know, really, you started off with these 32 amis were not made out of 32s. They weren't made out of a total of totally 6s. 6 of them were 5s. 6 of them were 5s again. That's the Yisoid, the Soivev, and the Karnais. That's 30. The other 26 is 156, is 186. So now you have what? A total of 186 tefachim. If you go ahead and do the math, so out of 186, you have 31 amis of 6 tefachim. 31 times 6 is 186. 31 times 6 is, so you have 31, and you end up with 26 by 26. How do you do that? You're going to deduct 5. From the 31, you're going to deduct 5, right? And now you have 26. So therefore, that would work out. Let's see it inside. 6 initially were what? From an amma, that's 5. Maisilahu, in Cain, Rafka lo Azar. So now here's the problem. You went ahead, fellas, and you took care of the figuring out the dimensions of the Mizbeach. Here's your next problem. Here's the possible solution, and here's your next problem. Here's your problem. The length of the Beis Hamikdash was 187 amas. How do you get 187? Let's go, guys. 11 amas was the Kodesh Kedoshim. 100 amas was the Heichel. 22 was Bein Ulu and Mizbeach. That's 133, correct? Now the Mizbeach was 32, and that's 22, and that's a total of 187. That's the Raglei Kahanim and Raglei Yisrael. It's 187. Fellas, if the Mizbeach was only 31, you're an amma short. In other words, you took care of that problem, but take the Mizbeach, you put it in, it's 187, and we cheshbin 32 of the Mizbeach. Guys, good? So says the Gemara. Let's see it inside. So if you're going to say that cheshbin and Cain, Rafcha lo ba'azara, that nan, you made the azara a little, you made the azara greater. In other words, it's more spacious by an amma. That nan, kol azara haisa oirich meo shmayna v'sheva al roichiv meo shloishim chamesh. It was 187 by 135. The mizrach l'mayriv meo shmayna v'sheva. From east to west, it was 187, and now it gives you the cheshbin. Malkum Jesus Ragli Yisrael Achad Asrei, Amma. Malkum Jesus Ragli Kahanim Achad Esrei is 22. Amma Mizbeach is Shloish V'Shtayim is 32. Bein Ul Mizbeach is Esrim Shtayim is 32. Amma. Amma Sahechel is Meya Amma. Achas Isri Amma Achure Beis HaKapoiris. And you have 11, base outside the base Kachah Kedoshim. So that's your cheshbon. Okay, and you got a problem. 187, I'm going to be an Amma short. Ella, what do you have to say? Chika Amma Bigoiva. Guys, look at me, please. Please. we thought until now the first cheshbon was we have a 5. The first cheshbon was the 5 from the bottom to the Sleivev. The second cheshbon was no. That is 6. The cheshbon was this is 5. The Gemara's cheshbon now is no. This is 5. In other words, the depth is 6, but this is 5. Just in other words, not up to the Sleivev. This the Yisoid is 5, right? The Yisoid is 5. Ella, here's the cheshbon. Ella chika ama begoiva. The chika ama 5 is only in its height. Ama. Roichiv knisa, but amas roichiv knisa, gevoila al svaseha soivev. So you have at the cheshbon now we're going after what? Its height. So when you go up, that one, you're going up 5. Amaroichev, when you get to the Amaroichev, that's the Kanisa. The width of that is 5. Gevula al Sfasa Saviv, and that the Karen is the height. So what you're doing is, guys, 5 to height, 6 to depth, 6 and this is going to be 5. It's going to be 6 over here, and on top it's going to be 5. So, and loishna hacha, the keren we don't make a difference. So I wrote down the cheshbon over here. Okay, so let's see how this works out before we see it inside. But here it's not so. Here it's. Let me see if I can make it bigger. This is the final pshat. Maybe you can make it a little bigger. Okay, good. Guys, you can see this, yes? Much better. The final pshat. The Yisoid was 5, but the indentation was 6. Right? So we're going back to the original pshat, but we're limiting it to the Yisoid, not extending it beyond. Right? Now, the rest was 6. The Soivev, the indentation was 5, and the Keren was 5. So that's going to give you a total of 58 tfachim. It's going to give you a total of 58 tfachim. Half of the Mizbeach, therefore, will be 29. Now, from the Yisoid, which is 5, and again, the Keren to the Soivev is going to be 4. One of the Amas is going to be a 5 Amma. 3 of them is going to be a 6 Amma. So 6 times 3 is 18, plus 5 is 23. So therefore, the Kohen would be able to daub the blood 5 tefachim below the soivev and a full tefach above the chotasikra. Because again, it's going to be 29 here after Mizbeach, 23 at the 23 till 5 will be 28 or 29. So that's going to be the final pshat. So notice we changed the chik 3 times. The first time we said it's the height, but we said it's the height from the Yisoid till the Soivev. The second time we said it's the depth. The third time we're going back to the height, but we're limiting it to the Yisoid. Then we're saying the Soivev is the indentation, the Keren is the indentation. I think it's good. Okay, so let's see it inside now. Mizbeach Kamahabe. Chamishu etamya. According to the Cheshbon, you got 58 tfachim. Palgul Mizbeach Kamahame. How much was here from Mizbeach? It's Esem B'Tisha, you got 29. Mikronis Vat Soivev Kamahame is Esem B'Tilsa, that's 23. Again, Yecheshbon was 1 of 5 and 3 of 6. 18 plus 5 is 23. Kama Batzil Palgul Mizbeach, you got 6 tfachim from 23 to 29. Vitanan, Im Asel Mata Meiraglov, Afilu Ama Achas Kshera, even 1 Amas, it's going to be kosher. Right? So therefore what? He's going to be either 5 or 6 above. Dekanami Dechsiv, Cheka Ama v'Ama Roichev. Shmamina, you have a very good raya. Shmamina, you have a very good raya, and hopefully that made sense to anybody.